Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I am your host, Jamarl Thomas. Guys, I have an interesting show for today. In fact, coming up is going to be Guy McPherson. He's going to have a conversation about the biodiversity study that was taking place, showing the level of bioloss, habitable space on this planet being lost. But in this case, I realized I haven't did a proper Brexit show in a while. I was watching a guy, the health secretary for Jeremy Corbyn, shadow health secretary, and I thought, oh yeah, let's have a conversation about this. Because they are going after Corbyn for something that they're actually legitimately right on, meaning the media in the UK. He's being a fence sitter. Not necessarily good or bad, just kind of what he is. So I'm going to go through this at a pretty even clip. I'm going to try to do this in like 15 minutes at the most. And it's just going to be kind of a point-by-point thing of what's taking place right now in the context of Brexit, to give you this kind of just cacophony, chaos, worldview that is currently British politics. So the government in the UK is collapsing. I mean that in the literal sense. Theresa May is supposed to be out ideally in June, but they're trying to get her out, and they're trying to get her to be very clear when she's going out. This has led to some kind of embarrassing displays at some points where MPs or members of the Tory party have yelled at her to just go. She has refused to do that, and instead has decided to find the first black person she could find and dance. She danced. She had nothing else to do. Her withdrawal bill wasn't going to go through, so she danced. Now, that dancing in no way assisted her in getting her withdrawal bill through, nor did it ingratiate her to any of the Tories that are really disliking her at this point. There are supposed to be talks between the Tory government and Labour. This is somewhat laughable to some degree. Tories can't agree on Brexit themselves, meaning this kind of hardcore Brexiteers versus the others. Now, in Labour's camp, Labour is just as divided, with one key advantage, that they're not in power. The Tories call for a referendum. The Tories are the ones who are having trouble making this work. It is the Tory government that is trying to steward this country through the Brexit process. And that is not what is taking place. They're failing miserably at this. Now, you can imagine that if you were Jeremy Corbyn, the last thing you want to do is give the Tories a lifeline. Why would you want to prop up a Tory government? Why would you want to help Theresa May in any way at all to make it look like she was able to secure some kind of deal before leaving? Why would you want to give her that win? Now, you might say, God, that's a cynical view of politics. Why would you ever think such a thing? And Jeremy Corbyn is above that level of politics. He would never do such a thing. Bastard. How dare you, sir? Because that's politics. There's no reason why Jeremy Corbyn would want to give her a win. You can say he should be a statesman. That's if people have governments that are ideal. Most countries don't have governments that are ideal in this way. His job, his goal, is to take power. If he really believes that he has a process, a plan that is going to make Britain a better place, and that Tories are making it worse, he needs to take power. That's his foremost concern. Now, the Brexit process is going to be just as strenuous for Labour as it is for Tories, but mission number one first, take power. Even if you fail at Brexit, it's you failing at Brexit in control of the political apparatus. Take power. If you're helping the Tories, you're not taking power. So no, Corbyn doesn't necessarily want to throw Theresa May a lifeline. By the same token, Theresa May wants Corbyn to share some of the blame in this unmitigated failure. She had one job, and that was to deliver Brexit. And that is not what is taking place. This has been a clown show with regards to her red lines and all this other stuff. And now at the last minute, she's trying to get secure help. A, her own party doesn't want it. And B, as a bit of evidence, and listen to Jeremy Corbyn talk about what has taken place up to this point in regards to the progress they've made. Theresa May started this process off with red lines. Labour has said they want a customs union. These things are diametrically opposed to one another, and the Brexiteers in our party hate this. Now the question becomes, if by some weird, bizarre quirk of a chance, they were able to secure some kind of deal, would there be enough Labour support in order to put it over the finish line where Labour ends up owning whatever the Brexit is, even though it's a Tory government? They would never do that. Listen to Corbyn.
In those talks, there's been no big offer, and the red lines remain in place. It's actually quite difficult negotiating with a disintegrating government.
Now that's funny, because it is kind of true. They have no idea what the government is going to look like after, let's say, June or July. Theresa may not be there. Hell, Theresa may not be there tomorrow. You never know. She might be, for all we know, back out these African kids dancing. Doing her thing. But you get my point. This is a disintegrating government. He does have a point, even though, yes, he's taking a knife and he's hitting them with it. Now here's the catch. Labour has their own red lines. One of the Labour conditions is a new vote, is a people's vote, meaning that has to be on the table. Now this gets into a whole other level of ridiculousness. Labour has put a red line, and they've said, look, any deal between cross-party talks has to include a people's vote. The Conservatives can't do that. That is a red line for Conservatives. It had to be a red line for Conservatives. Understand why. The Conservatives, Tory party, called for Brexit, called for a referendum. They lost the referendum. Prime Minister Cameron failed, capitulated. May comes in, one job, steward Brexit, fails at stewarding Brexit. But the fact of the matter is they call for a referendum. What is a referendum? It's an euphoric upswelling of public support to make a choice. What do you want? Do you want Brexit or not? Do you want to leave or do you want to stay? And in this large upswell of support, they chose to leave. Whatever you want to think of the people who chose to leave, they chose to leave. They had various reasons. If they make a confirmatory vote, there's a chance that they wouldn't be able to leave. Meaning, from a philosophical point, just of the referendum itself, it would be I agree with them that it's somewhat of a betrayal if you don't implement the Brexit that the public chose. They've given Conservatives a line that they can't cross. Meaning, for all this talk of cross-party talk stuff, both sides are putting red lines that they know the other side can't necessarily cross, if that makes sense. And I got to be honest, it is even somewhat dicey for Corbyn to entertain this. Corbyn is under pressure from two sides of the party. One side that says, look, you need to implement Brexit. You have Brexit. With the other side saying, give the public a vote. Give the public a choice. With this notion of having a second referendum. He's having just as much stress dragging and ripping him apart as the Conservatives and the Tories. The only difference is, again, he's not in power, so he doesn't necessarily have to make that choice immediately. But this gets the pole sitting Corbyn, where Corbyn sits on the pole. So now they're having European elections. Now, with the European elections, yeah, that's fine. With the European elections, and keep in mind, these are European elections that they didn't know that they were going to have. The Brexiteer party of Nigel Farage, who doesn't really have a platform, just one item to leave. Mind you, he wants to privatize everything, so let's be clear, he's a right-winger, is beating the stuffing out of the other parties. Listen to Labour Shadow Secretary explain why he's not fit to Andrew Marr. And Marr looks at this and says, you guys are in the middle of the road and you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit. He says, no, we're not in the middle of the road. He says, are you a Brexit party or are you a Remain party? Which is it? We're for leave because, we had that in our manifesto. But if we can't leave with a good deal and we can't get a general election and, we can't, Theresa May's deal still has red lines that we can't cross, then yes, then we're for a referendum. And Andrew Marr is like, are you a Brexit party or not? Like it's like you're fence sitting, but they're fence sitting for political reasons. They can't make a choice. If they make a choice now, they're going to alienate various aspects of their party, meaning the amount of alienation they have now dwarfs the amount they will have the moment that they make a choice. There is no way to not get hit on this. It's like if I say yes, you're going to punch me in the face, and if I say no, you're going to punch me on the other cheek. You're going to get hit either way. How do I get hit less until it gets to the point where I can try to take power in somewhere? It's politics of Brexit, especially if you're talking about being Jeremy Corbyn being a fence sitter. Listen to John Ashworth, Shadow Health Secretary for Corbyn.
Well, I don't think we will get run over, but it looks to me, and definitely from today's opinion polls and through my campaigning, and I've been talking to people on the streets of Newcastle just yesterday and on Friday, is that people are supporting of the Labour Party, but they don't want Nigel Farage's party getting in. And this is a two-horse race now between the Labour Party and the Brexit Party. The Liberals or the Change Party are not going to stop Nigel Farage's party in this election.
They did very well in the local elections.
Only the Labour Party, the Labour Party did better than the Liberal Party in the local elections. Only the Labour Party can stop Nigel Farage.
Let's turn to your responsibility, the NHS. There's reports in the papers this morning about huge...
The referendum legislation when it came through Parliament in 2015.
But I'm sorry, I'm still confused. If I'm thinking about my lunch and I say I've got the option...
Okay, I need to restart this. Let me see. I moved it. All right, let me go back to the beginning of this. That's the part where I want him to go into this.
Anti-Brexit party. Jonathan Ashworth, the Shadow Health Secretary, is with me. Jonathan Ashworth, thanks for bringing out a manifesto which we can look at. Let's look at what it says on the crucial issue. Here it is here. Sorry. If we can't get agreement along the lines of our alternative plan or a general election, Labour backs the option of a public vote. What does option mean?
Well, we've shown our support on about 3 occasions now in the House of Commons for a public vote. Of course, it didn't have enough Conservative MPs supporting a public vote in the House of Commons, so it fell in the Commons on the occasions when we've had those votes. We've always said, we said it in our 2017 general election manifesto, and we've said it in subsequent occasions, and Jeremy Corbyn has been very clear, that we accept the result of the referendum. After all, Labour MPs didn't obstruct the referendum legislation when it came through Parliament in 2015.
But I'm sorry, I'm still confused. If I'm thinking about my lunch and I say I've got the option of sandwiches or soup or whatever it might be, that doesn't mean I'm going to have them. Option leaves something completely open. So what you're saying in this manifesto is you're saying we want our version of Brexit, option A or option 1. We would love a general election, option 2. And then if we can't have those things, we might have the possibility, the option of a further referendum. But we're not committing ourselves to it. Actually, when you read it closely, this means we don't want another referendum.
No, I don't think it does. I think to take your lunch analogy, if you want soup and that is what you're trying to get, that is what you can go for. But if you can't get soup, you can get salad instead. Because what we are trying to do is say, look, we want a Brexit deal along a permanent customs union basis, something that secures rights for workers and environmental protections and a single market relationship. That is what we have been negotiating with the government. Not getting very far, by the way, but that's the basis of our negotiations. But if we can't get that, and if it turns out that we're going to have a Tory deal that we don't believe is in the interests of the country, or indeed no deal, which is definitely not in the interest of the country, then we would support. Then we would support a referendum.
You might or you might not.
No, our position is to support a referendum.
That's what option means.
I hope that's perfectly clear. Essentially, all options are on the table. Like, the problem with this is the Conservatives have just said, look, we're a Brexit party. We're leaving the European Union. That's our job. That's what we're going to do. We call for the referendum. That's what we're going to do. You ask Labour, what are you going to do? We're going to try to get the Brexit that we want, but if we can't get the Brexit, that gets to be a complicated answer that people look at and say, these guys are fence-sitting. I don't know what these guys are. Local elections were outright brutal for the Tories. I'm trying to say, is there anything else on this? Yeah, I think that's it. One of the Oh, the flaw. So there's a flaw in the logic that Corbyn and these guys are using. And the way that they're attacking Theresa May, they're boxing themselves in a way that is that they may get weird results. Like, so Jeremy Corbyn's thing is, look, we're not going to accept the no deal. He even says it. No deal is unacceptable. One of the other members of parliament, no deal. There's no pension. There's no energy for no deal in parliament. They were very clear about it. Even if there's a Brexiteer as prime minister, there is no numbers. They don't have the votes for no deal. But understand what that means. Theresa May has worked a deal with the European Union. The European Union says, look, this is the deal that you guys got. This is what you guys worked out. We're not changing that deal. Theresa May has gone back multiple times. They've told her, we're not changing that deal. Now assume for the moment that Jeremy Corbyn gets what he wants. Jeremy Corbyn is Prime Minister Jeremy Corbyn. What stops the European Union from saying, look, this is the only deal that we're going to give you, the exact same deal that Theresa May gave? What is Jeremy Corbyn going to do? He's already said no deal is not an option. So what is he going to do? Beg and plead with the European Union to give him a better deal? Taking no deal off the table doesn't make sense in a negotiating standpoint. It makes sense if you're trying to attack the government, but if you have any notion that you're going to take power, then you're also going to need no deal, because at some point there are bad deals that would be worse for Britain to accept, if that makes sense. If the European Union says we're going to keep Brits as puppies, that's so outrageous. You're going to walk. Unless, you're the Jeremy Corbyn government that says we have no deal is not an option. I guess I'm making a point. There are deals to the point where you're saying, okay, this is so atrocious that no self-serving human being, let alone Brit, would accept this deal. And you walk. Are you telling me that you're going to do and accept whatever the European Union gives you? And understand, the European Union has no reason, regardless of them seeming competent just in comparison to Theresa May's bunch, they have no just cause to give Britain a break on this. These guys are breaking up from the Union. They're pissed off that they're breaking up from the Union, and there is somewhat of a practical issue that if other countries decide they want to break away from the Union, they need to know that it hurts to do so. Yes, Britain is going to be used as an example, because Britain has to be used as an example in order to keep the other countries in line to not do what Britain is doing. So I just wanted to give a rounded view of what's taking place. Oh, by the way, the Brexit Party. The European elections weren't supposed to happen. So Labour and the Tories weren't necessarily prepared for this, because this wasn't supposed to take place. The Brexit Party, which has only been around for a few days, is going gangbusters. They're trying to use Labour to be a bulwark, but again, Labour can't even tell you what they are. Are they a Brexit Party? Who knows? It doesn't seems like they're going to betray the vote at this point. All right, I'll leave it here. I don't think anybody's going to be here this early in the morning, but I could be wrong. There are people here. And I just heard somebody give a super chat. All right, 18 minutes is not bad. I said 15. Let's see. Nobody cares about the British stuff. It's funny. Ideal. The ideal scenario for Corbyn is for May to fall on her sword and not go through with the Brexit. But she's never going to do that. She's never going to do that. And the whole falling on her sword thing, she's tried to. Did you hear that the joke that she fell on her sword and missed? Like, she promised these guys that she'd leave, and it wasn't enough. They still voted her bill down. The ideal scenario for Corbyn is for May to fall on her sword and not go through with Brexit, as the European Union court said she could do, dooming the Tories and forcing leadership election. But see, they'll never do that. Like, they can't do that. Like, in fact, to make my point even that much more, listen to Hunt. Listen to Jeremy Hunt, because he says this, and he's right when he says this.
Today, Sir Keir Starmer is demanding a second referendum for the price of a Brexit deal. Is the government going to budge?
Well, we are talking to the Labour leadership. We've had very, very detailed discussions. People have been pessimistic, right from the outset that these discussions weren't going to go anywhere, but they have actually continued. So we have to see what happens this week. This is a crunch week.
But any possibility of a second referendum?
I think from the Conservative point of view, we've always said that we think that that would be a betrayal of what people voted for, and we want to implement the first referendum. But
listen to the wording, betrayal. There is no leeway to come back from that. Like, understand, if I'm saying, I'm standing up and I'm looking into the camera and saying it is the Conservative, the Tory party point of view that not implementing Brexit would be an utter and outright betrayal. Betrayal, not to individual, but to the country itself. It's this, God, that's fucking awesome. Like, think of what this means. There is no such thing really as Britain. Doesn't exist. The countries doesn't exist. Money doesn't exist. None of that stuff really exists. Like, those things are concepts. And those are concepts that we've infused such a reality to that within this concept we could say, look, this philosophical idea of the public, we think it would be a betrayal. What would be a betrayal? Not implementing a referendum. What is the referendum? The referendum is the vote that the public gave. We feel that it would be a complete betrayal to those people who voted in this referendum to leave, to not leave. Not to mention, to some degree, a betrayal of Britain. If Britain is anything, meaning if it's democracy, if it's an enlightened public, and if it wants to keep this notion that Britain is a democratic government and that referendums matter, that people voting matters, they have to go through with this. Like, I gotta be honest, I don't fully understand this argument of you have a referendum and it gets difficult to implement the referendum, and some people, there's a certain degree of incompetence with it, and then it's like, all right, let's just stop. There were certain people who wanted that to be called back on day one, meaning there were people politically going after the referendum on day one. They didn't care what the public want. They had a point of view. Do you think that Tony Blair would have just countermanded the referendum? Like, I guess I'm saying there's certain people who didn't care about the fact that a referendum had taken place. I'm one of those people that do. So, but yeah, they'll never do that. And to be honest, I'm kind of shocked that Corbyn is even doing it. I'm shocked that Corbyn is even considering it. This isn't a Star Trek episode, and it's not going to end like one any more than American elections will. I don't understand what that means. If you have not seen this, do so. It's great. Listen to it. Kirk DK55 exactly, and something Jamal doesn't understand. What? Yes, they did, but they also elected the parliamentarians who mostly in favor of remaining. Oh, yeah. Yes, that's true. Like, when people make this argument that Theresa May botched it intentionally in order to remain, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's a lot of them. Keep in mind, when these guys were pushing for, when the referendum was around, all of them were pushing Remain. Like, it was very few people, especially that was in Parliament, that was, pushing for this Remain stuff, to leave. Mainstream was stay. And I don't think those people just went away. The only difference is those people were almost philosophically bound to the very least seem like they were trying to implement the Brexit that people asked for. So no, I don't disagree with that. It's just, it does seem like the Tory party cares about it to some degree. I mean, they always say Theresa May says she's a Remainer, so that may be true. I suppose that she, this was botched. This was just botched. They screwed up. Jamal, most of the Tory MPs were voting to leave. Are you sure most were voting to leave? When I was watching this, Labour was full of Remain. That's why Corbyn is having so much trouble now. He's having difficulties, to put it mildly. All right. I am going to leave this because I have additional videos that I want to do today. So if you guys enjoyed this content and you find yourself coming back here often, please consider supporting this content through PayPal or Patreon. think so. I'll see you momentarily.